Before her ex could react, the Vampire King claimed her. He needs to see what he lost. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Crimson Moon nightclub, each droplet racing downward like tears I refused to shed. My reflection stared back at me from the glass. Mascara slightly smudged, red dress clinging to curves I'd starved myself to perfect. All for a man who was currently inside with his tongue down another woman's throat. "Another vodka martini, please," I whispered to the bartender, my voice barely audible over the pulsing bass that made my ribcage vibrate. "That's your fourth one, sweetheart, you sure?" The bartender, a woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, studied me with concern. I nodded, sliding my credit card across the marble bar top. What did it matter? Tonight was supposed to be special. 3 years with Marcus, and he'd finally agreed to make our relationship public. 3 years of being his private girlfriend, of understanding that his career as a corporate lawyer meant discretion, of accepting late-night calls and cancelled plans. 3 years of being a fool. The bartender set down my drink, but her eyes drifted past me toward the VIP section. Her face paled and she gripped the bar edge. "Oh honey, maybe you should." But I'd already turned. Marcus sat in the center booth, bathed in purple LED light, with Vanessa, his just a colleague, straddling his lap. Her designer dress hiked up her thighs as she ground against him, their kiss obscene and public. Around them, his friends laughed and cheered, phones out recording. The martini glass slipped from my fingers, shattering against the floor. Several heads turned, including Marcus's. For a moment, our eyes met across the crowded club. I waited for guilt, for shame, for something human to cross his features. Instead, he smirked. Actually smirked. Then he pulled Vanessa closer, his hand sliding up her back, making a show of it. "Oh my God, is that Elena?" one of his friends said, loud enough for me to hear. "Crazy ex alert." Ex, we'd been together this morning. He'd kissed me goodbye, told me he had a business dinner, said he'd call me later. "Someone should tell her this section is VIP only," Vanessa purred, loud enough to carry. As in, very important people, not whatever she is. The group erupted in laughter. My legs moved before my brain could process. I found myself walking toward them, propelled by 3 years of swallowed pride and tonight's vodka courage. "Marcus," my voice came out steady, "I was proud of that, we need to talk." He sighed dramatically, gently pushing Vanessa off his lap but keeping one arm around her waist. "Elena, don't make a scene. We had fun, but come on, you knew what this was." What this was? The floor tilted beneath my designer heels, also purchased for tonight, maxing out my credit card. "You said you loved me, last week you said." "Jesus, Elena, are you really going to do this here?" He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. Up close, I could smell Vanessa's perfume on him, sweet and cloying, nothing like the subtle jasmine I wore that he claimed to love. "We hooked up, it was casual, I never promised you anything." "You met my parents, you have a key to my apartment. I turned down a job in Paris because you said." My voice cracked and I hated myself for it. "Receipts," one of his friends shouted. "She's got receipts." More laughter, someone's flash went off. I was being filmed, photographed, turned into a cautionary tale, a meme, a joke. "Look," Marcus said, his voice taking on that patronizing tone he used with incompetent paralegals. "You're a nice girl, Elena, but Vanessa and I, we make sense. Same social circles, same background. Her father's firm is merging with mine. It's a business arrangement," I finished, something cold settling in my chest. "You're with her for business." "I'm with her because she's my equal, because she doesn't cling or make demands or..." He gestured vaguely at me. "This, whatever desperate thing this is." Vanessa leaned into him, her smile sharp. "Or Marcus, be nice to the help. Elena, sweetie, you're adorable, but you had to know this was temporary. Men like Marcus don't end up with girls like you. We're the main course. You're..." She looked me up and down. "Fast food, convenient when we're not available." The VIP section howled with laughter. I stood there, drowning in humiliation, as phones continued recording my destruction. Tomorrow, I'd be viral. The desperate ex-girlfriend who couldn't take a hint. The pathetic woman who thought she could keep a man out of her league. "Elena, please leave before I call security." Marcus's voice was ice, like I was a stranger, like he hadn't whispered forever in my ear just days ago. "You're embarrassing yourself." No, a voice said from behind me, deep, velvet smooth, with an accent I couldn't place. She's not the one who should be embarrassed. The music seemed to dim, though logically I knew it hadn't. The crowd parted like a sea responding to Moses, and a man stepped into the VIP section. No, not a man, something more. He stood at least 6'4", with raven black hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes so dark they appeared black in the club's lighting. His suit was impeccably tailored, probably worth more than my car, and he moved with a predator's grace, each step precise, purposeful, dangerous. The temperature in the section dropped noticeably. I could see my breath. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus demanded, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. He actually took a step back. The stranger didn't answer Marcus. Instead, he turned those impossible eyes on me, and I felt seen, truly seen for the first time in years. His gaze traveled across my face, reading something there that made his jaw tighten. "You've been crying over him," he said softly, a statement rather than a question. "Over this child playing at being a man." "I'm sorry," I managed, though I didn't know why I was apologizing. "Do I know you?" Something flickered across his face, surprise, perhaps, or recognition. "Not yet, but you will." He extended his hand to me, palm up, an old-fashioned gesture that seemed both out of place and perfectly natural. "My name is Lucian Draculesti, and I believe you've had quite enough of this pathetic display." "Excuse me," Marcus stepped forward, puffing his chest. "This is a private section. Elena was just leaving, and you." Lucian finally looked at Marcus, and my ex-boyfriend's words died mid-sentence. I watched, fascinated, as Marcus went pale, actually trembling under that obsidian gaze. "You will not speak unless I address you directly," Lucian said quietly. "It wasn't a request. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded, mute, his earlier bravado evaporating. "Good." Lucian turned back to me and his expression softened marginally. "Elena, may I buy you a drink somewhere less?" His gaze swept across the gawking crowd with obvious disdain. Tedious. I should have said no, should have grabbed my purse and fled this nightmare. But something in me, maybe the vodka, maybe the adrenaline, maybe 3 years of playing small, made me place my hand in his. His skin was cold, not cool but genuinely cold like marble, yet the touch sent heat racing up my arm. "I'd like that," I heard myself say. Lucian smiled then, and it transformed his face from merely handsome to devastating. "Excellent." He tucked my hand into the crook of his arm, the gesture protective and possessive all at once. Then he addressed the room at large, his voice carrying effortlessly over the music. "For future reference, when a woman of Elena's caliber enters a room, you stand. You certainly don't mock her, and you absolutely don't deserve her tears." He started to guide me away, but Marcus found his voice. "Wait, you can't just, she's my..." "She's your what?" Lucian turned back, and I felt the temperature drop another few degrees. Ice crystals actually formed on the rim of nearby glasses. "Your ex, your mistake, your single greatest failure of judgment." "Who the fuck do you think you are?" Marcus demanded, though he still hadn't moved closer. Lucian smiled, and it was a terrible thing, beautiful and horrifying. "I'm the man who's going to show her what she's actually worth. I'm the man who will ensure she never settles for mediocrity again." His eyes glittered dangerously. "And I'm the man who's going to make certain you regret this night for the rest of your very short life." "Is that a threat?" Marcus tried to sound tough, but his voice shook. "No, dear boy, it's a promise." Before Marcus could respond, Lucian led me away, the crowd parting before us like he was royalty. I glanced back once to see Marcus staring after us, confusion and something that might have been fear playing across his features. The bartender who'd served me earlier was waiting at the exit with my purse and coat. "Here you go, honey," she said, but she was looking at Lucian with unmistakable reverence. "It's good to see you again, my lord." "My lord." Lucian inclined his head to her. "Thank you, Margaret. Tell your grandson his application has been approved. He starts Monday." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." We stepped outside into the rain, and a sleek black car materialized at the curb. A Rolls-Royce, I realized, with a liveried driver who held an umbrella over us. "Where are we going?" I asked as Lucian handed me into the car. The interior smelled of leather and something else, sandalwood maybe, and old books. He slid in beside me and the driver closed the door, sealing us in intimate silence. Somewhere you can think clearly, somewhere you're safe. He studied me carefully. Unless you'd prefer to go home, I can have Victor drive you anywhere you'd like. I should have chosen home, should have thanked him for his intervention and escaped while I still could. But the thought of my empty apartment, full of Marcus's things, echoing with his lies, made my chest constrict. I don't want to go home, I whispered. Then you won't. He pressed a button and a partition rose, giving us complete privacy. Elena, I need you to understand something. What happened back there, what that foolish boy said and did, had nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with his profound inability to recognize treasure when it's in his hands. You don't know me, I pointed out, though his words warmed something cold inside me. I could be terrible, a terrible person who deserved. No, the word was absolute. I do know you, perhaps not the details of your life yet, but I know the essence of you. I've known it for quite some time. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the car's temperature. What does that mean? Have you been watching me? He had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable, not watching, waiting. For what? For you to be free of him, for you to be ready. He shifted in his seat and the streetlights passing outside cast shadows across his aristocratic features. I've seen you, Elena, at the art gallery where you volunteer on Sundays, at the bookstore on 5th Street where you spend your lunch breaks, at the park where you feed the pigeons and sketch in that little leather notebook. My heart started pounding. That's stalking. I suppose it is, he admitted calmly. Though in my defense I've been ensuring you were safe, not planning to harm you. Your ex-boyfriend, however, his hands clenched briefly on his knees. He's been unfaithful for 8 months, with 4 different women, including the one you saw tonight. The air rushed from my lungs. 8 months. I wanted to tell you, wanted to intervene, but you wouldn't have believed me, a stranger appearing from nowhere with wild accusations about a man you loved. His jaw tightened. So I waited. I protected you from the shadows and waited for you to see him clearly. Protected me from what? From the consequences of his carelessness. The drunk driver who would have hit you outside your office 3 months ago. The mugging in the parking garage that never happened because the perpetrators suddenly fled. The building fire that miraculously stopped spreading before it reached your apartment. He turned to face me fully. I've been your guardian angel, Elena, though I'm decidedly not angelic. I should have been terrified. Every instinct should have been screaming at me to run, but instead I felt relieved, like puzzle pieces I hadn't known were scattered were finally clicking into place. The cold, I said suddenly. You're cold to the touch, the temperature drops around you, the bartender called you my lord, you move like, I trailed off, my brain catching up to my mouth. Like what? He prompted gently. Like something not human. He smiled, and in the darkness of the car, his teeth seemed sharper than they should be. Very perceptive. Your intelligence is one of the many things I adore about you. What are you? My voice was barely a whisper. I think you already know, Elena. Your heart is racing, but not entirely from fear. Part of you has been waiting for this, for me, even if you didn't realize it. He leaned closer and I could see that his eyes weren't black but a deep crimson like wine held up to candlelight. I'm a vampire, Draga me, and not just any vampire. I'm the Vampire King, ruler of the North American territories, direct descendant of Vlad Dracula himself. The laugh that escaped me was slightly hysterical. Vampires aren't real. This is. I'm drunk, and I'm having some kind of breakdown because my ex-boyfriend, cheated on me. You've had 4 martinis, but your metabolism has already processed most of the alcohol. You're not drunk, and while you're certainly in shock, you're not having a breakdown, you're having an awakening. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my cheek with one cold hand. I can prove it if you'd like, though I warn you, once you see, you can never unsee, your life will change forever. My life already changed tonight, I pointed out, leaning into his touch despite myself. What's one more impossibility? Brave girl, his thumb stroked across my cheekbone. Close your eyes, Elena. When you open them, you'll see truth. I don't know why I obeyed. Maybe I was in shock. Maybe I'd finally snapped. Maybe some part of me had been waiting for magic my entire life. I closed my eyes. Now open them. When I did, the world had transformed. The car's interior glowed with subtle energy, threads of silver and gold that seemed to pulse with life. Lucien himself was surrounded by an aura of deep crimson and shadow, ancient and powerful, like staring into a black hole's event horizon. And in the rearview mirror, I could see the driver's eyes glowing amber. "Oh my God," I breathed. "There is no God in this car," Lucian said with dark amusement. "Only monsters who have learned to pass as men. You're seeing the world as it truly is now, the hidden layer beneath mundane reality. Most humans never perceive it, but you," he tilted his head, studying me. "You have the sight, dormant until now but present. That's why I've been drawn to you, that's why you're special." "I'm not special," I said automatically, a reflex from years of Marcus telling me I was ordinary, lucky to have him. Lucian's expression darkened. "He really did a number on your self-esteem, didn't he? That mediocre fool actually convinced a woman of your caliber that she was common." His hand slid from my cheek to my chin, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. "You are extraordinary, Elena Mora. You possess a rare gift, beauty that transcends the merely physical, and a soul so bright it calls to me like a beacon. You are, in fact, exactly what I've been searching for these past 300 years." My breath caught 300. "Give or take a few decades, we don't keep precise count after the 1st century." He smiled slightly. "I was turned in 1721 during the Ottoman Wars. I've been king for 200 years, and in all that time I've never met anyone like you." The car had stopped, I realized. We were parked in front of a building I recognized, the historic Blackthorn Hotel, a Gothic revival structure that had been abandoned for decades. Or so I'd thought. As I watched, lights blazed to life inside, revealing stained glass windows and ornate stonework. The building looked simultaneously ancient and meticulously maintained. "This is your home?" I asked. "One of many, but yes, this is my primary residence in the city." He opened the car door and stepped out, then offered his hand. "Will you come inside, Elena? I promise you're safe. I've waited too long for you to risk frightening you away now." I stared at his outstretched hand, pale, elegant, deadly. Behind me was my old life, my apartment full of lies, my job as a graphic designer where I made myself small to not outshine Marcus, my carefully constructed normal existence that had just imploded in spectacular fashion. Ahead was the impossible, a vampire king who claimed to have been protecting me, watching me, waiting for me. Danger and darkness and things that shouldn't exist. The smart choice was obvious. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, cool and strong, and he smiled, genuinely smiled, with warmth that transformed his inhuman beauty into something almost hopeful. "Thank you," he said softly, "for trusting me. I won't disappoint you." "You're a vampire," I pointed out as he led me toward the ornate entrance where 2 more men, vampires I could now see, their auras pulsing with that same otherworldly energy, stood guard. "Isn't disappointment kind of part of the package? You probably want to drink my blood or turn me into your servant or something." Lucian laughed, the sound rich and unexpected. "I do want to taste you," he admitted with devastating honesty, "but as a gift freely given, not taken by force, and I don't want a servant, Elena, I want." He paused at the threshold, ancient wooden doors carved with symbols I didn't recognize opening before us. "I want a queen, if you'll have me, if you'll give me the chance to prove that you deserve to be worshipped, not merely tolerated." The interior of the hotel took my breath away. Vaulted ceilings soared above us, painted with frescoes of stars and myths. Chandeliers dripping with crystals cast rainbow light across marble floors. It was like stepping into a fairy tale, beautiful and dangerous and utterly surreal. "A queen," I repeated faintly. "You want me to be a vampire queen?" "Eventually, if you choose it, but first I want you to remember what it feels like to be valued, to be cherished, to be the center of someone's universe rather than a convenience." He guided me through hallways hung with art I was fairly certain belonged in museums. "Tonight, I simply want you to rest, to process what's happened. Tomorrow we'll talk about the future, about possibilities and choices and—" "Revenge," I interrupted. He stopped walking and turned to face me, surprise and approval warring in his expression. "Revenge. You said you'd make Marcus regret tonight for the rest of his very short life." I met his eyes steadily, feeling something dark and satisfying unfurl in my chest. "I want to know what you meant. I want to know what you're planning." Lucian's smile was slow and predatory. "There's the fire I've been waiting to see. You've kept it buried for so long, Elena, trying to be the perfect, understanding, accommodating girlfriend. But you're angry, aren't you? Furious at the time he stole, the confidence he eroded, the future he made you sacrifice. I turned down Paris, I whispered, my dream job at an international design firm, because he said long distance wouldn't work and if I really loved him, I'd stay. While he fucked his way through every woman in his office, Lucien's voice was gentle but rage simmered beneath it. Yes, Draga, I know, I've been documenting his indiscretions. I have proof of everything, photos, videos, financial records showing he's been using your credit cards without permission, emails where he mocks you to his friends. His hand came up to cup my face again. I was planning to destroy him professionally and socially, but if you want more, if you want true revenge, I can arrange that too. What kind of revenge? My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from excitement, from a dark satisfaction I'd never allowed myself to feel. The kind that shows him exactly what he lost, the kind that makes him watch as you rise higher than he could ever reach, the kind that leaves him ruined financially, socially, professionally while you flourish. His thumb traced my lower lip. I can give you the world, Alina, power, wealth, influence, immortality, and every bit of it will drive a stake through his mediocre heart as he realizes he had access to all of this and threw it away for a trophy wife with a trust fund. That's I searched for the word, vindictive. Absolutely, is it wrong that I hope you say yes? I thought about Marcus's smirk, Vanessa's cruel laughter, the phones recording my humiliation. 3 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less than, all for a man who'd been cheating on me for 8 months. No, I said firmly, it's not wrong. When do we start? Lucien's smile was pure sin and dark promise. Oh, Draga me, we already have. I woke to silk sheets and confusion. For a blissful moment, I didn't remember. Then it crashed over me, Marcus's betrayal, Lucien's intervention, the impossible revelation that vampires were real. I sat up abruptly, my heart racing, half expecting to find myself in my own bed having experienced the world's most vivid stress dream. But no, I was in a bedroom that belonged in a palace, 4-poster bed with velvet curtains, antique furniture that was probably worth more than my annual salary, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden that shouldn't exist in the middle of the city. You're awake. I spun toward the voice. Lucien sat in a wingback chair near the fireplace, reading a leather-bound book. He changed from his suit into dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that were all lean muscle and pale skin. He looked simultaneously relaxed and alert, like a panther lounging in the sun. How long was I asleep? My voice came out raspy. 14 hours, it's nearly sunset. He closed the book and set it aside. Your body needed rest after the shock of last night. I had Margaret bring you upstairs after you fell asleep mid-conversation about mortgage fraud. I flushed, vaguely remembering him explaining something about Marcus's financial crimes while I struggled to keep my eyes open. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize for having human limitations. He stood and moved to a side table where a silver tray waited. I had food prepared. You haven't eaten since yesterday morning. As if on cue, my stomach growled. He smiled and brought the tray to a small table near the windows, pulling out a chair for me. The gesture was old-fashioned and unexpectedly sweet. I approached cautiously, still wearing the red dress from last night, now wrinkled and uncomfortable. The food was incredible, fresh pastries, fruit, cheese, coffee that smelled like heaven. I had your apartment cleared this morning, Lucien said casually as I devoured a croissant. All of Marcus's belongings have been delivered to his office, along with a few surprises. I paused mid-bite. What kind of surprises? Printed evidence of his affairs, financial documents showing his theft from you. He's been using your credit cards to buy gifts for his mistresses, by the way, and a formal notice that you're suing him for fraud and emotional damages. His smile was sharp. My legal team filed the paperwork at 9 a.m. He was served at 9:30 during his morning partners' meeting. You, what? My hands started shaking. Lucien, I can't afford to sue anyone. I'm a freelance graphic designer who barely makes rent. You were a freelance designer. Now you're the creative director of Drackle Enterprises with a salary of $300,000 annually, full benefits and a signing bonus that should more than cover any legal fees. Though you won't need them, my lawyers work for me, not you. Consider it a gift. I set down my coffee before I dropped it. You can't just give me a job, that's insane. Why, you're exceptionally talented. I've seen your portfolio. The work you do is remarkable, far beyond what someone of your experience should be capable of. You deserve a position that challenges you." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Unless you'd prefer to keep struggling in Marcus's shadow, convincing yourself you're not good enough for more." "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is you believing his lies about your mediocrity. What's not fair is you making yourself small to accommodate his fragile ego." His eyes flashed crimson. "I'm offering you what you've earned, Elena. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept it." I stared at him, this impossible creature who'd upended my life in less than 24 hours. Why do you care? You said you've been watching me, waiting for me, but why? What do you actually want from me?" Lucian was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood and walked to the windows, his back to me. "Have you ever heard of the sight? You mentioned it last night, something about seeing the hidden world. It's more than that. The sight is a rare gift that appears in certain bloodlines, the ability to perceive supernatural entities, to see through glamours and illusions, to sense the truth beneath pretty lies." He turned back to face me. "Most humans with the sight don't survive long. They're either driven mad by what they see or recruited by supernatural factions as seers and advisors. And I have this gift. Dormant until last night, but yes, I awakened it when I showed you my true nature." He moved closer, his presence filling the space. "But there's more, Elena. The sight appears most strongly in the descendants of certain families that once hunted my kind." My blood went cold. "What are you saying?" "Your mother's maiden name was Van Helsing. You're distantly related to the famous vampire hunter, though that branch of the family abandoned the calling generations ago." His lips quirked. "Ironic, isn't it? I've been drawn to the one woman in this city whose ancestors dedicated their lives to destroying creatures like me." I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "So this is what? Some kind of revenge against my family? You've been stalking me because of my last name?" "No," he closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands gentle on my shoulders. "I've been drawn to you despite your name. When I first saw you, truly saw you, 9 months ago at that gallery opening, I felt something I haven't experienced in 3 centuries. Recognition. Like my soul remembered yours from some other lifetime." "That's not real," I whispered, but my traitorous heart was racing. Soulmates aren't real. Perhaps not in the way humans romanticize them, but connections between souls, bonds that transcend reason and logic, those are very real. His hand came up to cup my face and I leaned into the coolness of his touch. "I've had lovers, Elena, countless partners over 300 years, but I've never felt this need to protect, to cherish, to claim. I've never met someone who made me want to be better than the monster I am." "You don't know me," I protested weakly. "You know my routine, what you've observed, but you don't know me." "Then let me learn." His thumb stroked across my cheekbone. "Let me spend time with you, court you properly. Let me show you what it means to be valued by someone who sees all of you, the strength you hide, the dreams you've buried, the fire you've learned to suppress. And if I say no, if I want to go back to my normal life." Pain flickered across his features. "Then I'll let you go. I'll ensure Marcus can never hurt you again, I'll make sure you're financially stable, and I'll disappear from your life. Your free will is sacrosanct, Elena, I won't force this." I should have said no, should have run back to my normal existence, supernatural revelation be damned. But as I looked into his ancient eyes, I realized something. I didn't want normal. Normal had meant making myself less for someone who didn't appreciate me. Normal had meant safe and small and slowly dying inside. "I want to see it," I said suddenly. "Your world, the real world, not the one I've been pretending exists." Lucian's smile was brilliant. "Tonight then, there's a gathering, the Council of Elders meets once a month. They'll want to meet you anyway since you're under my protection now. Fair warning, it will be dangerous, political, and some of them will try to test you." "Test me how?" "By challenging whether a human with Van Helsing blood should be allowed in our world. By questioning my judgment in claiming you, by attempting to frighten or intimidate you to prove you're not strong enough." His expression hardened. "They'll fail, of course, I won't allow anyone to harm you, but you'll need to show them you're not easily cowed." "No pressure," I muttered. He laughed, the sound warming something inside me. "You've already faced down a room full of mocking humans and walked out with the Vampire King on your arm. Trust me, Draga, you're ready for this." A soft knock at the door interrupted us. My lord, a woman's voice cultured and cautious, the dresses have arrived. Excellent, send them in, Natasha. The door opened and 3 women entered carrying garment bags. They were all beautiful, inhumanly so, with that same otherworldly grace that marked them as vampires. They smiled at me with genuine warmth, though their eyes held curiosity. Elena, meet your styling team for tonight, Lucian said. Natasha, Simone and Katerina, they'll help you prepare for the council meeting. Ladies, treat her as you would treat me, with utmost respect and care. Of course, my lord. Natasha, a statuesque woman with platinum hair, bowed her head. We are honored to serve. I can dress myself, I protested. Not for this, you can't. Lucian moved toward the door. The council meeting is high ceremony. There are protocols, expectations, political statements made through fashion choices. These 3 know the game better than anyone, trust them. He paused at the threshold. I'll return in 3 hours, we leave at sunset. Then he was gone, and I was alone with 3 vampire women who were eyeing me like a particularly interesting puzzle. Well, Simone said, her French accent pronounced. We have our work cut out for us, but the bones are excellent, and that fire in your eyes, magnifique. The council won't know what hit them. 3 hours later, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. The gown was deep crimson, Lucian's color, Natasha had explained, with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt that moved like liquid silk. My dark hair had been styled in an elegant updo with a few strategic curls framing my face. My makeup was dramatic but not overdone. Smoky eyes, deep red lips, subtle contouring that made my features look regal. I looked powerful, dangerous, like someone who belonged in a vampire king's world. Perfect, Katerina breathed. You look like a queen already. Don't let it go to your head, Natasha added, but she was smiling. You still have to survive the council, but at least you'll look magnificent doing it. Another knock. This time Lucian entered, and his reaction was worth every minute of preparation. He froze in the doorway, his eyes darkening to deep crimson as they traveled over me. Elena, he said, his voice rough, you're breathtaking. Is it appropriate, I asked, suddenly uncertain, for the council? It's perfect, you're representing me, wearing my colors, entering as my chosen companion. They'll understand exactly what you mean to me. He crossed to me and offered his arm. Ready? Not remotely, but let's go anyway. He smiled and led me from the room. As we walked through the building, I noticed staff, all vampires from what I could see, stopping to stare. Some bowed, others whispered, all of them looked shocked. They're not used to seeing you with someone, I guessed. They're not used to seeing me with a human, and they're definitely not used to seeing me look at anyone the way I'm looking at you. He glanced down at me, expression softening. I'm not hiding you, Elena. I want the entire supernatural world to know you're under my protection, that you're mine if you'll have me. We descended to an underground garage where a convoy of vehicles waited. Lucian handed me into the middle car, another Rolls-Royce, this one even more luxurious than the last. Tell me about the council, I said as we pulled away from the building. What should I expect? 7 elders, each representing a different vampire clan. Nikolai oversees the Eastern European houses. He's old school, traditional, deeply opposed to humans in our world. Malin controls the Asian territories. She's cunning and will test your intelligence. Santiago handles South America, passionate, dramatic, but fundamentally fair. He continued, giving me brief descriptions of each council member. They advise me, but I have final authority. However, if they unanimously oppose something, it becomes politically complicated. And they're going to oppose me. At least some of them will, which is why you need to be strategic. Don't show fear, don't back down, but also don't be reckless. These are ancient predators who have survived millennia by being dangerous. His hand found mine, squeezing gently. And remember, you have something none of them do. What's that? The sight, you can see their true natures, their auras, their intentions. They can't hide from you the way they can from normal humans. Use that advantage. The car stopped in front of a building I recognized, the old Masonic temple that had been closed for renovations for the past decade. Of course, it hadn't been closed, it had been repurposed. We entered through massive bronze doors into a space that took my breath away. The interior was a blend of Gothic architecture and modern luxury. Soaring ceilings, stained glass windows depicting battles between supernatural creatures, and a circular council chamber dominated by a black marble table. 7 figures sat around that table. As we entered, they all turned to look at me, and the weight of their collective age pressed against my skin like a physical force. These weren't just vampires. These were ancient powers wearing human faces. Lucian, a man with silver hair and a Russian accent, said, "You called an emergency session. We assumed it was regarding the werewolf treaty negotiations, yet you arrive with a human." His lip curled slightly on the last word. "Nikolai," Lucian's voice was courteous but cold. "Allow me to introduce Elena Morau. She is under my personal protection and will be attending council meetings as my guest going forward." The reaction was immediate and explosive. The entire council erupted in protest, voices raised in multiple languages, some even standing from their seats. "Absolutely not," Nikolai slammed his hand on the table. "A human has never been permitted in council chambers. This is..." "My right as king," Lucian interrupted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Or have you all forgotten the charter? The king may bring any companion he chooses to council gatherings. I choose Elena." "The charter refers to vampire companions," Maylin said, her voice softer but no less dangerous. She was tiny, delicate-looking, but her aura pulsed with ancient power. Not humans, certainly not humans with Van Helsing blood. Silence fell, every eye turned to me. "You brought a hunter's descendant into our sanctum." Santiago rose from his seat, his handsome features twisted with rage. "Have you lost your mind, Lucian? This is a betrayal of everything." "Enough!" Lucian's voice wasn't loud, but it resonated with power that made the windows rattle. "Elena is not a hunter. She's a graphic designer who, until yesterday, didn't even know vampires existed. She poses no threat to this council." "Then why bring her?" This from a woman with kind eyes and an Egyptian accent, Safia, who Lucian had said was the most reasonable of the elders. "What purpose does she serve?" "She's my soulmate." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. "Impossible," Nikolai breathed. "Soul bonds don't exist between vampires and humans. Every scholar, every text confirms." "Every text is wrong." Lucian looked at me, and his expression was so open, so vulnerable that my breath caught. I've felt it since the moment I saw her. The recognition, the pull, the absolute certainty that she's mine and I'm hers. "You all know me, in 200 years as your king, when have I ever claimed such a thing? When have I ever brought a companion before this council?" "Never," I realized from their stunned expressions. In 2 centuries he'd never done this. "You would risk everything for a human?" Maylin asked. "Your position, your authority, the respect of your subjects, for someone who will age and die in the blink of an eye." "Unless she chooses to be turned," Lucian said calmly. "Which is her decision, not yours, and certainly not one to be made tonight." "She has the sight." This from a tall black man with African tribal scars and an aura like a supernova, Jabari, the African territory's representative. He stood and moved closer to me, studying my face. "I can see it in her eyes. She sees us as we truly are." I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze. I see ancient power barely contained in human flesh. I see predators who have forgotten what it means to be prey. And I see politicians trying to decide whether I'm an asset or a liability. Jabari's lips twitched. "She has courage, at least. Tell me, Elena Van Helsing, what do you see when you look at our king?" I turned to Lucian, really looking at him with the sight fully engaged. His aura was massive, crimson shot through with shadow, ancient and powerful, but threaded through with gold that pulsed in time with my heartbeat. And there, at the center of it all, was a light that seemed to reach toward me. "I see someone who's been alone for a very long time," I said softly. "Someone who's powerful enough to destroy this entire room but chooses mercy. Someone who's been waiting for something, someone to remind him why immortality matters." I met Jabari's eyes again. "I see my match." The big vampire smiled. "I vote to allow her presence. If the king has finally found his mate, we should celebrate, not obstruct." "Absolutely not," Nikolai snarled. "This is madness. She could be a spy, an assassin, a graphic designer who got cheated on and dumped in public," I interrupted. "Yes, clearly I'm a master spy. My devastating cover as a broke artist who can't afford decent health insurance is truly inspired." Several council members actually laughed. Even Maylin's lips curved slightly. She's got spirit, Santiago admitted, and the sight is rare, valuable if she's truly no threat. I'll submit to any test you devise, I said, surprising myself. Truth spells, background checks, whatever you need to verify I'm exactly who I appear to be. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking for a chance to prove myself. Clever, Maylin murmured. Very clever. She knows we can't refuse such an offer without looking unreasonable. She studied me carefully. Very well, I propose a trial period. Elena may attend council meetings for the next lunar cycle. At the end of that time, we vote on whether she may continue. And what happens if you vote no? I asked. Then you'll have your memories of our world erased, and you'll be returned to your normal life with generous compensation for the inconvenience. Maylin's smile was sharp. A fair compromise, I think. No memory erasure. Lucian's voice was absolute. That's non-negotiable. Elena keeps her knowledge and her autonomy regardless of the vote. Then what leverage do we have if she proves unsuitable? Nikolai demanded. My word that I'll respect the council's judgment, I said before Lucian could respond. If you vote that I don't belong here, I'll leave. I won't fight it, but I keep my memories and I stay under Lucian's protection in the human world. The council members exchanged glances. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Acceptable, Maylin finally said, all in favor of a trial period under these terms. 5 hands raised, only Nikolai and one other, a silent elder Lucian had identified as Thuron, abstained. Majority carries, Safia announced. Welcome to the council, Elena Mora. Try not to get killed in the next month. The meeting continued for another 2 hours, discussing territory disputes and treaty negotiations that went over my head. But I watched and listened, noting the power dynamics, the alliances, the subtle threats hidden in diplomatic language. And I noticed something else. Lucian kept his hand on my knee under the table, a constant point of contact, as if assuring himself I was real. When we finally left, I was exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through the meeting evaporated, leaving me shaky and overwhelmed. You were magnificent, Lucian said as we settled into the car. Do you know how rare it is for someone to win over Jabari on first meeting, or to earn even grudging respect from Maylin? I just told the truth, I said, that I see you, really see you. He turned to me and in the dim interior of the car, his eyes glowed crimson. What do you see right now, Elena? I looked at him with the sight, seeing past the handsome face to the ancient power beneath, but I also saw vulnerability, hope, loneliness so deep it was like staring into an abyss. I see someone afraid I'm going to leave, I whispered. Someone who's been disappointed so many times that he doesn't quite believe this is real. And will you leave? I should have said yes, should have taken the out the council offered, returned to my normal life, forgotten this impossible man and his impossible world. Instead, I leaned in and kissed him. His lips were cool against mine, but the heat that sparked between us was incendiary. He made a sound low in his throat and pulled me closer, one hand tangling in my carefully styled hair, the other spanning my waist. The kiss deepened and I could feel his fangs against my lower lip, a reminder of what he was, of the danger I was courting. But instead of fear, I felt exhilaration, power, like I was finally alive. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I'm not leaving, I said against his lips. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me this is real, that you're not just fascinated by the novelty of a human with the sight, that when the newness wears off, you won't discard me the way Marcus did. Pain and rage flickered across his features. I am nothing like that pathetic boy. When I claim something as mine, it's forever, Elena, forever. And I claimed you the moment I saw you 9 months ago, even if you didn't know it yet. Then prove it, I straightened, smoothing my dress. You said you wanted revenge on Marcus, that you wanted to show him what he lost. Let's do it. Let's make him regret ever treating me as disposable. Lucian's smile was slow and predatory. Oh, Draga me, I thought you'd never ask. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Lucian hadn't been exaggerating about the job. I arrived at Dracal Enterprises, a gleaming skyscraper in the financial district, to find an entire creative department waiting for my direction. My office was a corner suite with views of the entire city, furnished with everything I'd ever dreamed of having. "This is insane," I told Natasha, who'd been assigned as my assistant and supernatural liaison. "I'm not qualified to run a department." "You created an entire branding campaign for a non-profit on a $1,000 budget that tripled their donations," she replied, pulling up my portfolio on her tablet. "You designed award-winning work while your ex-boyfriend took credit. You're more than qualified, you've just been convinced otherwise." She was right. As I dove into the work, I realized I'd been holding back for years. The campaigns I created for Drackle Enterprises were bold, innovative, provocative, everything I'd always wanted to do but had been too afraid to try. And every night, Lucien courted me properly. We had dinner in restaurants that didn't have prices on the menu. We attended gallery openings where my opinions were actually valued. We walked through his private library, 3 floors of rare books, including a first edition of Dracula that made me laugh until I cried. "My ancestor was furious about that book," Lucien admitted. "Bram Stoker got so many details wrong. Vlad wanted to sue for defamation." He showed me his world carefully, introducing me to vampire society in measured doses. I met artists who'd been perfecting their craft for centuries, musicians who remembered Mozart personally, scholars who'd watched empires rise and fall. And slowly I began to understand what immortality meant, both its beauty and its terrible loneliness. "Most of us don't survive the first century," Lucien told me one night as we stood on his rooftop garden looking out over the city. "The isolation drives us mad, or we grow so detached from humanity that we become true monsters. The ones who survive learn to find meaning in small things, art, music, protecting something larger than themselves." "What kept you going?" I asked. "For a long time, duty, responsibility to my people. Then, about 9 months ago," he turned to me, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Hope, the possibility that after 300 years I might find someone who made eternity feel less like a curse." I leaned into his touch, marveling at how natural this had become. "You know I'm still mortal, right? Still very breakable and temporary." "Which is why I treasure every moment." His lips brushed my forehead. "And why I'll respect whatever choice you make about your future. If you want mortality, I'll love you for every day you have left. If you want to turn, I'll spend eternity making sure you never regret it." But we both knew we were avoiding the elephant in the room, Marcus. The lawsuit had proceeded exactly as Lucien predicted. Marcus's firm had suspended him pending investigation into the financial fraud. Vanessa had dumped him publicly on social media after discovering she was mistress number 4, not the true love he'd claimed. His friends were distancing themselves from the scandal. He was being destroyed piece by piece exactly as I'd wanted. So why did I feel empty instead of satisfied? "Because you're not cruel," Lucien said when I confessed my confusion. We were in his study, me curled in the chair while he worked through centuries-old correspondence. "You wanted him to understand what he lost, not to be ruined. There's a difference." "Then what do I want?" I asked. He looked up from his papers, his dark eyes thoughtful. "I think you want him to see you happy, thriving, living your best life with someone who actually values you. The revenge isn't in his destruction, it's in your transformation." That's very wise for a 300-year-old vampire. I've had time to learn about human nature. He stood and crossed to me, pulling me to my feet. "Which is why I have a proposition. There's a charity gala this weekend, the Blackwood Foundation event. It's the social event of the season. Every influential person in the city will be there, including Marcus." I finished. "His firm always buys a table." "Exactly, I've been invited as the keynote speaker. I'd like you to come as my date. Not hiding in the shadows, but on my arm, wearing my colors, showing the entire city exactly who you are now." My heart started racing. "That's not revenge, that's a declaration of war." "No, Draga, it's a declaration of victory. You've already won. This is just making it official." He cupped my face in both hands. "But only if you're ready, only if you want this. I won't push you into a confrontation you're not prepared for." I thought about the older Lena, the one who made herself small, who apologized for existing, who believed Marcus when he said she was lucky to have him. Then I thought about who I'd become in 2 weeks with Lucien, confident, powerful, unafraid. I want to do it, I said. I want him to see exactly what he lost. Lucian's smile was proud and possessive. Then we'll make sure it's a night no one forgets. The Blackwood Foundation Gala was exactly as pretentious as I expected, held in the city's most exclusive hotel ballroom, dripping with crystal chandeliers and old money. I'd been to events like this before, always as Marcus's plus one, always feeling out of place in my discount dress store finds. Not tonight. Tonight I arrived in a custom gown that had taken a team of designers a week to create. It was black silk that seemed to absorb light, fitted perfectly to my body with a neckline that was just barely decent. Diamonds, real ones borrowed from Lucian's family collection, glittered at my throat and ears. I looked like I belonged, more I looked like I owned the place. Ready? Lucian asked as our car pulled up to the red carpet. Yes, there was an actual red carpet with photographers and reporters. Absolutely not, I admitted. Let's do it anyway. He laughed and helped me from the car, and immediately the cameras exploded with flashes. The reporters started shouting questions. Mr. Draculesti, who's your date? Is this a new relationship? Can we get a name? Lucian ignored them all, keeping me close as we walked the carpet. But about halfway down, he stopped and turned to the cameras. This is Elena Moro, he said clearly, his voice carrying. My companion, my creative director, and the woman I intend to spend the rest of my life with. The reporters went insane. I stood frozen, processing what he'd just announced to the entire city. You said the rest of your life, I whispered as we finally escaped into the ballroom. That's going to raise questions about how long your life is. Let them question. I'm tired of hiding you. I want everyone to know your minds. The possessiveness should have annoyed me. Instead, it sent heat pooling in my stomach. The ballroom was packed with the city's elite, politicians, business leaders, socialites. And there, at a table near the front, was Marcus. He looked terrible. His suit was slightly rumpled, his face drawn, and Vanessa was conspicuously absent. He was sitting with his firm's senior partners, clearly trying to salvage his professional reputation. Then he saw me. I watched emotions flash across his face in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, shock, and finally, devastating realization. His eyes traveled from my dress to the diamonds to Lucian's hand at the small of my back, and I saw the exact moment he understood what he'd lost. Elena, he stood, his voice carrying across the room. Several heads turned. What are you doing here? Lucian's hand tightened on my back, but he let me respond. Attending a charity gala with my boyfriend, I said calmly. The same thing everyone else is doing. Your boyfriend? Marcus's laugh was slightly hysterical. You've been dating for what, 2 weeks, and you're already parading around like... Like what, Marcus? I asked, my voice sharp. Like someone who deserves to be treated well, like someone worth showing off instead of hiding. Yes, exactly like that. You can't seriously be with him. Marcus gestured at Lucian like he was something distasteful. He's old enough to be your father, probably after your money. Oh wait, you don't have any. So what's his angle, slumming with the help for a few weeks before he gets bored? The entire room had gone quiet, watching our confrontation. Lucian moved, stepping slightly in front of me with the fluid grace that marked him as other. You have 3 seconds to apologize to Elena before I make you regret every word you've ever spoken to her. Oh, what are you going to do? Marcus sneered, false bravado fueled by humiliation. Beat me up, please. I could sue you for assault and own everything you. He didn't get to finish. Lucian moved faster than human eyes could follow, suddenly in Marcus's space, one hand wrapped around my ex's throat. To everyone else, it probably looked like he'd simply stepped forward. But I saw the supernatural speed, the predatory precision. You disrespected my Elena, Lucian said softly, dangerously. You spent 3 years making her doubt her worth, cheating on her, using her resources while giving her nothing but crumbs of affection. And now, when she's finally free of you, you dare to speak to her this way. Let go of me, Marcus choked out, his face reddening. Gladly, right after we establish some facts, Lucian's voice carried across the silent ballroom. Elena is the creative director of my company because she's brilliant at her job. She's wearing those diamonds because I wanted to adorn her with beautiful things. She's on my arm because she's the most fascinating woman I've met in. He paused. A very, very long time, not because I'm using her, not because I'm slumming. But because I'm the luckiest man in this room, and unlike you, I'm intelligent enough to recognize her value. He released Marcus, who stumbled back, gasping. Security was moving toward us, but Lucian's security detail, all vampires, I realized, intercepted them smoothly. Mr. Draculesti, one of the gala organizers, approached nervously. Perhaps we should. I believe Mr. Chen was just leaving, Lucian said calmly, after he apologizes to Ms. Morau for his disrespectful behavior. Marcus looked around the ballroom, seeing judgment in every face. These were his peers, his colleagues, the people whose respect he needed, and they were all waiting. I'm sorry, Elena, he finally muttered. Louder, Lucian commanded, and with sincerity. I'm sorry, Marcus's voice cracked. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't appreciate you. I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough when the truth is I was never good enough for you. Is that what you want to hear? The room was utterly silent. No, I said quietly. What I wanted was for you to realize that 3 years ago, what I wanted was for you to be the man you pretended to be. But I'll settle for you understanding exactly what you lost. I turned to Lucian and smiled. I'm ready to leave, this party is boring anyway. His answering smile was brilliant. He offered his arm and we walked out together, leaving Marcus standing in the middle of the ballroom, humiliated and alone. The reporters mobbed us again on the way out, but Lucian's security cleared a path. We were back in the car in moments, pulling away from the hotel. I started laughing, I couldn't help it, great gasping laughs that bordered on hysterical. That was insane, I managed between laughs. You nearly choked him in front of half the city's elite. He disrespected you, I don't tolerate that. Lucian was watching me carefully. Are you all right? I know that was intense. I'm perfect, absolutely perfect. I turned to him, my laughter fading into something more serious. Thank you for defending me, for seeing my worth when I'd forgotten it, for making me remember who I was before I started shrinking myself to fit into someone else's life. You never needed to shrink, Elena, you just needed someone with eyes to see you properly. He pulled me against his side and I melted into the cool comfort of him. And I see you, every brilliant, fierce, beautiful part of you. We rode in silence for a while, my head on his shoulder, his hand stroking through my hair. Eventually, I realized we weren't heading back to his building. Where are we going? I asked. I have something to show you, somewhere I've never taken anyone else. He looked nervous, if a 300-year-old vampire could be nervous. If you're ready, if you trust me. I trust you, I said and meant it. The car climbed into the hills outside the city, finally stopping at a gate set into a stone wall. Beyond it, I could see a sprawling estate, gardens and fountains, and a manor house that looked like it had been transplanted from European nobility. This is your real home, isn't it? I guessed. The hotel is for show, but this is where you actually live. Very perceptive, he helped me from the car and we walked through gardens illuminated by moonlight and strategically placed lights. I bought this land in 1823. Built the house over the next decade. It's been my sanctuary ever since. The house was beautiful, old-world elegance blended with modern comfort. But Lucian led me past the main rooms to a conservatory in the back, and there he stopped. I want to tell you a story, he said quietly, about a young soldier in 1721 who thought he was fighting for God and country, who took a vampire's blade in the chest and woke 3 days later as a monster. I settled onto a bench and he sat beside me, his eyes distant with memory. I spent the first 50 years hating what I'd become, hating my maker for turning me without consent. I tried to end myself a dozen times but were hard to kill. His laugh was bitter. Eventually I accepted my nature, embraced it, became powerful enough that when my maker was destroyed I inherited his territory. And when the previous vampire king fell in the revolution of 1821 I took his crown. Revolution? I asked. Supernatural politics are complex. Let's just say he was a tyrant and I led the coup that removed him. He looked at me. For 200 years I've ruled fairly and firmly. I've protected my people, maintained peace with other supernatural factions, and tried to be better than the monster who made me. But I've been alone, Elena, surrounded by subjects and allies and council members, but fundamentally desperately alone. Why are you telling me this? I asked gently. Because I need you to understand what you mean to me. You're not a distraction or a fascination or a phase. You're the first person in 3 centuries who's made me feel human again, who's made immortality feel like a gift instead of a curse. He took my hands, his skin cool against mine, and I need to know if you could ever want this. Not now, not soon, but eventually, if you could see yourself spending eternity with me. My heart was pounding. You're asking if I'd consider being turned. Eventually, years from now, after you've lived your human life fully, after you've experienced everything you want to experience. But yes, ultimately, I'm asking if you could choose forever with me. I looked at him, really looked, with the sight and without. I saw the ancient vampire king, powerful and dangerous. But I also saw the lonely soldier who'd had his humanity ripped away, the ruler who carried the weight of thousands of lives, the man who looked at me like I was his salvation. Ask me again in a year, I said finally. After I've seen more of your world, after we've weathered whatever challenges come from me being human in a vampire's life. Ask me when I'm sure this is real and not just the aftermath of a bad breakup and a supernatural awakening. He looked disappointed for a moment, but then he smiled. That's fair, more than fair. It's the intelligent, cautious answer I should have expected from you. But I continued, ask me again in a year and I'll probably say yes. Because this, us, feels more real than anything I've ever experienced. You see me, Lucian, really see me, and I see you. That's rare, whether you're human or vampire. His kiss was soft and reverent, like I was something precious. Then I'll wait, and I'll spend that year proving I'm worthy of your eternity. We stayed in that conservatory until dawn started lightening the sky. Lucian showed me his collection of night-blooming flowers, told me stories about the garden's history, and held me like I was the most precious thing in his world. As the sun threatened the horizon, he walked me to a prepared bedroom, because of course he had a light, tight guest room for situations like this. Sleep well, Draga me, he said, kissing my forehead. When you wake, we'll start planning your future, your real future, not the limited one you'd resigned yourself to with Marcus. Lucian, I caught his hand before he could leave. Thank you for everything, for seeing me when I was invisible, for waiting for me to be free, for making me remember I'm worth more than I was settling for. You never have to thank me for recognizing your value, Elena. That's not a favor, it's simply the truth. He kissed my hand, old-fashioned and sweet. Now rest, tomorrow we show the world what you're truly capable of. I slept deeply and dreamlessly, more content than I'd been in years. 6 months passed like a dream. My work at Drackle Enterprises flourished. The campaigns I created won awards, attracted major clients, and established the company as a creative powerhouse. More importantly, I'd built a team I trusted, hired talented people who'd been overlooked by traditional firms, and created a culture where innovation was celebrated. I was happy, genuinely, unreservedly happy. Lucian and I had settled into a rhythm. I maintained my apartment. He'd insisted I keep my own space, even as I spent most nights at his estate. We attended council meetings together, where I'd earned grudging respect from even Nikolai after I'd solved a territorial dispute with a creative solution no one else had considered. I'd also learned more about the supernatural world, met werewolves and witches and fae, discovered that the city I thought I knew was layered with hidden communities and ancient power struggles. And I'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with a vampire king. You're staring, Lucian said without looking up from his book. We were in his library, enjoying a quiet evening. I'm admiring, I corrected, there's a difference. He smiled and set the book aside. Come here. I crossed to him and he pulled me into his lap, burying his face in my neck. You smell like jasmine and happiness, it's intoxicating. You smell like old books and power, also intoxicating. I ran my fingers through his hair, marveling at how natural this felt. Can I ask you something? Anything. The year is almost up, the year you asked me to take before making a decision about, I trailed off. He stilled. About turning, yes it is. I've been thinking about it, a lot, about what immortality means, what I'd be giving up, what I'd be gaining. I pulled back to look at him, and I have questions. Ask them. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could feel the tension in his body. If I turn, do I have to drink human blood? Could I survive on animal blood or synthetic alternatives? You could survive on alternatives, yes, many younger vampires do, though human blood willing given is more satisfying, but you'd never have to kill, never have to harm anyone. What about the sun? Would I really never see daylight again? Direct sunlight is deadly for the first century. After that, older vampires can tolerate brief exposure with preparation. But yes, you'd become primarily nocturnal. He cupped my face. I won't lie to you, Elena. There are significant costs to this choice. You'd outlive every human you know, watch friends and family age and die, give up simple pleasures like beach days and summer picnics. But I'd have time, I said slowly. Time to perfect my craft, time to see the world, time to make a real difference instead of just rushing through a brief life. I met his eyes, time with you. Is that enough? He asked quietly. Am I enough to justify giving up your humanity? You're not the only reason, I said honestly. I've seen what I could accomplish with immortality, the art I could create, the good I could do, the knowledge I could accumulate, but you're a big part of it, the thought of leaving you, of you watching me age and die while you go on forever. I shook my head. That feels wrong, like ending a story in the middle chapter. So what are you saying? I took a deep breath. I'm saying ask me the question for real this time. Lucian stood, setting me on my feet, and to my shock he knelt before me, this ancient, powerful being on his knees in front of me. Elena Mora, he said formally, his voice resonant with power and emotion. I have walked this earth for 300 years, and in all that time I have never met anyone like you. You are brilliant and brave, creative and kind, strong in ways you're still discovering. You make me want to be better than the monster I am. You make immortality feel like a gift instead of a curse. He took my hands in his. I'm asking you to spend forever with me, not as my subject or my servant, but as my equal, my partner, my queen if you'll have the title. I'm asking you to let me turn you, to trust me with your life and your death and your rebirth. I'm asking you to choose this world, these powers, and yes, me, always me. Tears were streaming down my face. That's not fair. How am I supposed to say no to a proposal like that? You're not, he said with a slight smile. I'm 300 years old, Draga. I've had time to perfect my romantic speeches. I laughed through my tears. You're impossible. Is that a yes? I looked at him, really looked, saw the hope and fear warring in his ancient eyes, saw the vulnerability of a being powerful enough to level cities, kneeling before me and offering everything he was. Yes, I whispered. Yes to forever, yes to becoming a vampire, yes to being your partner and your equal and your... He was on his feet in an instant, kissing me with an intensity that stole my breath. I melted into him, into the promise of forever, into the certainty that this was right. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. When I asked, how does this work? Whenever you're ready, we can do it tonight or you can take more time, say goodbye to your mortal life properly, visit family, finish projects, experience any last things you want to do in daylight. His hands framed my face tenderly. There's no rush, Elena. Forever means we have all the time in the world. I want to do it right, I decided. Take a few weeks, finish the campaign I'm working on, visit my parents, I'll tell them I'm moving abroad for work, make peace with this chapter before I start the next one. Whatever you need, he kissed my forehead. Though I should warn you, the council will want to be involved. Turning a human is a big deal, and turning the king's mate is practically a state event. I groaned. Please tell me there's not going to be a ceremony. Oh, there's absolutely going to be a ceremony. Maylin has probably been planning it since the day you first attended a council meeting. His smile was rueful. But after that, you and I will have time alone. I'm taking you to my estate in Romania for your transformation. Just us, away from politics and expectations. Romania, like Transylvania, Romania. The very same, where my mortal life began and ended. It feels right to have you begin your immortal life there as well. He pulled me close again. Thank you, Elena, for choosing this, for choosing me. Thank you for waiting, I replied, for seeing me when I was invisible, for showing me I was worth more than I'd been settling for. We stood there in the library, holding each other, as the enormity of the decision settled over us. I was going to become a vampire. I was going to live forever. I was going to be queen. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. I finished my campaign, a massive project for a global brand that would cement Drackle Enterprises' reputation. I visited my parents, spinning a story about a transfer to the European division that would keep me abroad for the foreseeable future. They were thrilled, proud of how far I'd come from the heartbroken woman who'd been humiliated at that club months ago. If only they knew the truth. I also had an unexpected visitor. Elena, the voice at my apartment door was familiar and unwelcome. Can we talk? I opened the door to find Marcus standing there, looking worse than he had at the gala. He'd lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, and his expensive suit couldn't hide the fact that he was falling apart. What do you want, Marcus? I asked, not inviting him in. I wanted to apologize, really apologize, not the forced one at the gala. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been going to therapy, working on myself, and I realize how badly I treated you. You deserved so much better. Yes, I did, I agreed calmly. I was wondering if, maybe we could try again. I've changed, Elena. I understand now what I had, what I lost. I could be better for you. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. No, Marcus, we're not trying again. We're not even friends. You had 3 years to treat me well, and you chose to make me feel small and unworthy. The fact that you've realized your mistake only after I left, only after you saw me with someone else, tells me everything I need to know. It's him, isn't it, that Draculesti guy? Elena, there's something wrong about him, something off. Have you looked into his background, where his money comes from, why he's so? Marcus, stop, my voice was sharp. Lucian treats me like I'm precious. He celebrates my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. He wants me to be my best self, not a diminished version that makes him feel superior. That's not something wrong. That's what love actually looks like. Love? Marcus laughed bitterly. You've known him for 6 months. That's not love, that's infatuation. And yet in 6 months he's shown me more genuine care than you did in 3 years. Funny how that works. I started to close the door. Goodbye, Marcus. I hope you find someone who's actually suited for you. Someone who wants the same shallow, transactional relationship you're offering. But that person isn't me, not anymore. Elena, wait. I closed the door in his face and locked it. Then I waited, listening to him stand there for a long moment before finally walking away. Well handled, Lucian's voice came from my bedroom. He emerged, having let himself in earlier with the key I'd given him. I was ready to intervene if needed. I didn't need intervention, I needed closure. I leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent. He's really gone now, that part of my life is completely over. Good, he kissed the top of my head, because tomorrow your new life begins. The transformation ceremony was held in a chamber beneath Lucian's estate, an ancient space with walls carved with symbols I was only beginning to understand. The 7 council members attended, along with what felt like half the vampire population of North America. I wore white, a deliberate choice, symbolizing rebirth rather than death. Lucian wore ceremonial robes I'd never seen before, crimson and black, marking him as king. Maylin performed the ceremony, her voice carrying through the chamber as she recited words in a language older than Latin. She spoke of sacrifice and transformation, of the death of one life and the birth of another. Then it was time. Are you certain, Elena Mora? Maylin asked formally. This choice cannot be undone. Once made, you will walk in darkness forever. I'm certain, I said clearly. I choose this transformation, I choose immortality, I choose the vampire world. And do you choose this freely, without coercion or undue influence? I choose freely, with full knowledge of what I'm giving up and what I'm gaining. Maylin nodded and turned to Lucian. Lucian Draculesti, vampire king of the North American territories, direct descendant of Vlad Dracula. Do you accept responsibility for this fledgling? Will you guide her through death and rebirth? Will you be her maker and her partner through all the centuries to come? I will, Lucian said, his voice resonant with power and promise. I claim Elena as my mate, my creation, my equal. I will guide and protect her. I will share my power and my throne, from this moment until the end of time. Then let the transformation begin. Lucien turned to me, and in his eyes I saw love and regret and determination. "It will hurt," he warned quietly so only I could hear. "The transformation is agonizing, but I'll be with you every moment. You won't face it alone." "I trust you," I said, and meant it. He pulled me close, tilting my head to expose my throat. "I love you, Elena. Remember that when the pain comes, remember that this suffering has purpose." Then his fangs pierced my skin, and the world exploded into sensation. It didn't hurt at first. Instead, it felt intimate, his mouth on my neck, my blood flowing into him, a connection deeper than anything I'd experienced. I could feel his age, his power, his very essence pouring through that contact. Then the venom hit. Pain like liquid fire burned through my veins. I would have screamed, but my voice was frozen. My body convulsed, and Lucien lowered us both to the floor, cradling me against his chest as the transformation began. "I'm here," he murmured against my ear. "I'm here, Draga, breathe through it, let the change happen." I could feel my human body dying, my heart slowing, struggling, finally stopping, my lungs taking their last breath. Everything that made me Elena Mora, human graphic designer, was burning away. And then, in the darkness, something new began to emerge. Power flooded into the space my humanity had left. I could feel Lucien's blood remaking me at a cellular level, transforming me into something other. My senses expanded. I could hear heartbeats throughout the entire estate, smell individual scents from 100 yards away, feel energy currents I'd never known existed. My eyes opened, though I didn't remember closing them, and the world was transformed. Everything was sharper, clearer, more vivid. I could see in the dim chamber as clearly as if it were daylight. I could sense the auras of every vampire present, their power signatures like unique fingerprints. And Lucien was radiant. His aura blazed like a crimson sun, ancient and powerful, and threaded through it were golden strands that connected to me. Our bond, visible and undeniable. "Elena," his voice was cautious, hopeful, "how do you feel?" I sat up slowly, marveling at the strength in my limbs. "I feel incredible, powerful, like I've been sleeping my entire life and just woke up." Relief flooded his features. "The transformation was successful. You're vampire now, immortal, mine." "Ours," I corrected, standing with inhuman grace. "We're each other's now." The council members approached, examining me with interest. "The sight has strengthened," Maylin observed. "She can probably see more than most ancient vampires now, useful." "Her control is remarkable for a fledgling," Jabari added. "Usually they're feral for at least a few hours. She's completely coherent." "That's because she was meant for this," Lucien said, standing beside me. "She was always supposed to be one of us. The transformation just made official what was already true." He turned to address the gathered vampires. "I present Elena Mora Draculesti, my mate and your queen. She carries my blood and my name. She will rule beside me with all the power and authority that entails. Any who harm her answer to me. Any who serve her faithfully will be rewarded. This is my decree as your king." The vampires bowed, even the council members, even Nikolai, who'd opposed me from the beginning. "All hail the vampire queen," Maylin said formally. "All hail the queen," the chamber echoed. I stood there, transformed and powerful, with Lucien's hand in mine, and felt the weight of forever settle onto my shoulders. I was vampire, I was queen. I was beginning an immortal life with a love that had already survived betrayal, revelation, and transformation. And I was ready. Epilogue 1 year later. The Blackwood Foundation Gala was as pretentious as ever, but this time, I walked in as a completely different woman. Literally. I wore crimson now, Lucien's color, my color. My dress was a masterpiece that probably cost more than my old apartment. The diamonds at my throat were from the Romanian crown jewels, and on my finger, a ruby ring that marked me as vampire royalty. "Ready?" Lucien asked, offering his arm. "Absolutely," I said, my vampire senses picking up every heartbeat, every whispered conversation in the ballroom ahead. We made our entrance and the room fell silent. In the year since my transformation, I'd become a figure of fascination in both human and supernatural circles. The human world knew me as Lucien's wife, the creative genius behind Dracal Enterprises' global expansion. The supernatural world knew the truth that I was the vampire queen, powerful in my own right. And there, at the same table as last year, was Marcus. He looked better than our last encounter. Therapy and humility had done him some good. He was with a new girlfriend, someone who seemed actually suited for him. They looked happy in a mundane sort of way. He saw me and froze. I watched him take in the changes, my flawless skin, my predatory grace, the power that radiated from me. He couldn't know what I'd become, but he knew something fundamental had shifted. "Elena," he said as we passed his table. Then more respectfully, "Mrs. Draculesti, you look incredible." "Thank you, Marcus," I smiled, showing just a hint of fang that only Lucian would notice. "I hope you're well." "I am actually well, therapy helped, new job, new relationship." He gestured to his girlfriend, who smiled nervously. "I wanted to thank you actually for not destroying me completely. You could have with that lawsuit." "I didn't want destruction," I said honestly. "I wanted you to understand what you'd lost and be better for the next person. It seems like you have been." I really have." He looked at Lucian, then back at me. "You look happy, Elena, genuinely happy. I'm glad, you deserve it." "I know," I said simply. "I finally figured that out." We moved on, leaving Marcus to his new, smaller life. "That was gracious of you," Lucian murmured as we took our seats at the head table. "I don't need revenge anymore. I have everything I wanted: purpose, power, partnership. Marcus was just a chapter in my story, not the whole book." I turned to kiss him softly. "This is my story now, ours, and we have forever to write it." "Forever," he agreed, his eyes glowing crimson with love and promise. "I'm going to spend every century making sure you never regret choosing this life." "I already don't," I said. "I never will." The gala continued around us, speeches and donations and social maneuvering. But I barely noticed. I was too busy marveling at my transformed existence, at the immortal love I'd found, at the infinite possibilities stretching before me. A year ago, I'd been heartbroken and humiliated, convinced I wasn't worthy of real love. Now I was vampire, I was queen, I was powerful and cherished and completely, perfectly whole. Before Marcus could react, the Vampire King had claimed me, and I'd claimed him right back. It was, without question,